With the release of Marvel's latest movie hot on the horizon, the Thunderbolts has become quite an anticipated story. In fact, the more time that has gone on, and with every subsequent new trailer that I probably shouldn't watch to avoid spoilers, I've grown incredibly excited for this. More eager than I thought I'd be to watch this team dynamic between the wide variety of anti-heroes and villains featured. And the talent behind the camera has taken that excitement and multiplied it exponentially with how confidently they've been discussing it. However, for every positive I can think of, I can't help but look at the MCU's Thunderbolt team and wish one specific element from the comic was being adapted, because without it, Marvel might have missed a big trick. Welcome to Sandwich Reviews. I'm the Talking Sentient Sandwich, your nihilistic optimist, and I should remind everyone that, as of yet, I have not seen the Thunderbolts, so there's always a chance I watch it and find out my story predictions and wishes for comic elements are all kinds of off. And even without that, the necessary changes to include the story elements I'll be discussing would probably end up drastically changing the story, as well as its overall themes, essentially changing the whole movie top down. And from everything I've heard, this isn't a movie that should be changed. But I still think taking this element into account when first drafting up the script for this should have been a priority for Marvel. Although, before diving into those thoughts and speculating on the structure of a movie I've only seen trailers for, let's look at how we got here, because it wasn't too long ago that I straight up didn't want this. Not to the point that I thought Marvel was wasting their time though, because I do remember having similar apprehensions to the first Guardians of the Galaxy movie, thinking that Marvel was fighting an uphill battle in displaying a new group of characters in a new corner of the universe, and the Thunderbolts does have an easier time with that, utilizing previously used villains or just known characters. But I still thought it was weird that we were getting a Thunderbolts movie, something I can only guess is going to be a secret Dark Avengers project, with me willing to put money down on that being what the asterisk is in the title. But I also just wasn't interested in seeing these people. Don't get me wrong, there isn't a single one of them that I actively dislike, and I have no doubt I'm going to get 1 minute into this movie and immediately fall in love with each of them, but there's nothing about them that jumps out and instantly makes me need to see. I love everything about the idea of having recurring villains, and every excuse to cram some into a narrative will always get the benefit of the doubt for me. Out of them, aside from Bob, I am most excited to see Taskmaster because she was criminally underused in Black Widow, but her lack of any meaningful shots in every single trailer and her actress not attending the premiere does have me worried. Who knows, maybe she's being hidden because she's secretly a massive part of the story, maybe working for Allegra de Fontaine and taking orders directly from her, but I know deep down that's not the case. Plus, I get the feeling Allegra's not going to make it out of this scene. More on that later though. Yet that would take away from the character work that could be fit in with Taskmaster. Even if she only has 1% of character growth, that would be infinitely better than the 0% she got in Black Widow. But the emotional core of Thunderbolts, the actual part of the movie that will make or break it, will unquestionably not come from Taskmaster. I just had to bring her up because I think a developed Taskmaster could do wonders for building up the street level side of the MCU. Yet that insanely important emotional core will most likely come from Yelena. And it's not just that Florence Pugh is incredible in everything she's in, but just that she was also the emotional core of the Black Widow movie. And for all its faults, Pugh did really well with what she was given there. So I have no doubt something about her in the Thunderbolts is gonna make me cry. And I'm afraid that changing anything in its story would sacrifice that emotion. That being said, I'm only assuming that'll be there. I've heard exclusively good things, but I can't confidently say it'll work for me. In fact, if you put aside the growing buzz, there are cliched elements of this story that cannot be ignored, because seeing a ragtag team coming together to face an unstoppable force and finding family in one another is something we've seen more than enough. Yet, it's also a trope that undeniably works, and I can't wait to see it work once again when I go to see this movie in a few days. However, as I keep alluding to, the narrative at the foundation of this movie, while seemingly compelling, heartfelt, and fun, is missing out on a massive trick. One that the comic counterpart of the Thunderbolts, well, one of its incarnations, is fundamentally built on. That, of course, being how one of the comic Thunderbolt teams was created as a front to dress up classic Marvel villains as known heroes to gain public support, which was a massive reveal after seeing the team pop up here and there in different series. I wasn't an avid reader at the time, being a little too young to comprehend writing or anything, but from what I can tell, it was a seriously insane twist in 1997 for the plucky team being built up on the sidelines by Marvel to actually be the masters of evil in disguise. Originally, with Helmut Zemo's team, they were dressed up as new, random heroes, with Zemo being Citizen V, Goliath as Atlas, the Beetle as Mach 1, a name whose number in it would change with almost every appearance, Moonstone as Meteorite, Screaming Mimi as Songbird, and the Fixer as Techno. Over the course of their comic run, they'd gain and lose a lot of members, including actually going to the good side and being led by Hawkeye for a time, but aside from that, not much of note. Yet the real team to keep in mind is the re-established Thunderbolt team formed by Norman Osborn in the late 2000s to the early 2010s, a team who happened to be created with the intent of arresting any hero that avoided the newly reformed Superhuman Registration Act, and Norman chose these members with the express intention of forming the perfect counterpart to the Avengers team. It included some members from before, like Songbird and Moonstone, but added members like Bullseye, Swordsman, Penance, Radioactive Man, and rounding out the team was the symbiote human duo we all know and love, Venom. Grouped together in a Suicide Squad-esque task force, even with bombs implanted in the most unstable of members, each of the different Thunderbolts team, in some way, were meant to replace the Avengers and be Earth's genuine protectors. Since, at least for the original team, the actual Avengers weren't there, for convoluted reasons. This does seem to be the case in the movie, fitting that trope of an unprotected world seeking defenders. But then, and what gives me the idea for this video in the first place, following the insanely massive Secret Invasion comic crossover, the Thunderbolts writer was changed over from Ellis to Bendis, as well as the story itself being relaunched. And this is where the title switches over from The Thunderbolts to Dark Avengers, one of the many reasons why I'm so confident that'll be the subtitle of the MCU's movie. But the real thing of note about this team is that they weren't just a substitute for the Avengers, they were replacing the Avengers. On this team, Norman actually went out with them as team leader, dressing up in a spangly Iron Man suit and going by the name Iron Patriot, something we already kinda have seen in the MCU, but I wouldn't mind seeing it again. But with Norman was Wolverine's son, Daken, taking his father's costume and going by Wolverine, Moonstone as Miss Marvel, Venom as Spider-Man, and my personal favorite, Bullseye as Hawkeye. Ares and Sentry were also on the team as Muscle, but didn't play dress-up as some other Avenger, probably because convincing them to be members in the first place was hard enough for Norman, but also because there's not really a good analog for them to take place of in the Avengers team. There's plenty of thematic weight and discussions that can be brought up with that idea, but simply putting known villains in hero outfits does so much for me. And though the MCU needs to be much more clear about it, if the Avengers are no longer really a thing, this is the perfect time to adapt that comic storyline and have a shady group take the Avengers mantle, not just allowing for some epic future storylines that they could get into, but also contextualizing and almost giving reason to the aimlessness of the Avengers team throughout the multiverse saga. That being said, just because the comic Thunderbolts are different, that doesn't automatically mean the movie adaptation should have to be the same. Honestly, it shouldn't be if it's to make a better story. Yet I can't help but express just how much I want to see the whole element of the Thunderbolts being dressed up fake heroes. Some other comic counterparts can be drawn from, and I'm mainly just speculating on who bought the old Stark Tower that Allegra is using. I mean, it could just be her, and that would be fine, but I wouldn't mind it being revealed that Zemo was forming and leading the team in the background. That, or it could be a great way to introduce a live-action Norman Osborn. But Allegra, Zemo, Osborn, whoever, could use the Thunderbolts and create their own discount bin Avengers team, and that concept is more than interesting enough. But there's another element of this upcoming movie that throws every thought I've pointed out so far right out the window. I might have mentioned earlier that no one character in particular made me need to see them and watch their continuation in the MCU, but that was a bold-faced lie, because I'm more than ready to finally see Sentry make his return after featuring in 2012's Avengers. Raise your hand, who got that, and who had it go straight over their head? I doubt they'll do the whole Mandela effect deep state cover-up aspect of Sentry, but it would be fun to play with. And that aside, I am beyond excited to see what they do with him, and more importantly, the Void. Introducing someone like that to the MCU could have a universe-altering effect, and will make serious changes to the known status quo of this new saga. Though not having a known status quo is admittedly the very reason a lot of people haven't been too sure about Marvel these days. I have endless speculation on what Sentry could be doing in this one movie, let alone what he could do in the rest of the multiverse saga and beyond, but all I really want to comment on for now is Allegra's desire to control him, because we know that'll get her in some hot water. The reason I don't think she's gonna make it to the end of the movie or out of this room, but I do wonder who captured him in the past, how, and why. Plus, how does Allegra now know about him? More than that though, I do wish I was walking into the Thunderbolts movie not even knowing that Sentry was in it. But with this YouTube channel and being the person I am, I was gonna find out no matter what. I could be blissfully ignorant and happy, making this video essay entirely about how I wanted the MCU's movie to incorporate the comic element of the team being fake heroes. But nah, I gotta make a vague video about all that while also speculating on the Sentry, something I jokingly complain about, but I'm honestly glad because that makes the entire third act of this movie a mystery to me. Unless it's in New York and it turns out the trailer spoiled it, but I can't help but think about what could have been. But what are your thoughts on the MCU's upcoming Thunderbolts movie? Are you watching this video in the future and have already been to the movies to see it and can foretell that I was way off? Let me know down in the comments. And as always, thanks for watching. Make sure to leave a like, subscribe for weekly video essays and reviews, and enjoy a delicious sandwich.